Welcome to Journey to Service, episode 17 plus one. William Laddick here. Nice to have you joining us again. And once again, joining us is Mayor Randall Kaiser. Mr. Kaiser, how are you?
Oh, it's Master, remember?
It's Master Kaiser. Yeah, I knew there's something. There's always something I botch up in the intro, so that was it. So still not perfect.
I'm that word guy, like I like to play with words so much. It's like, when the Lord or God said, "Let there be light," He said that, So it's all about the word, and I think we're going to talk about that later today. But we'll start off wherever you want, buddy.
Well, how's your week been?
It's been divine. I had a long fast, and I think we're going to start off by talking about that. I started last weekend by just drinking some juices and fruit shakes and stuff like that, and then I dove in on Tuesday morning into a 4-day water fast, a little bit of salt and some lemon in the water, and I usually do that once a month on my moon cycle, and it's not only for physical biological health but also for mental health, because I see a lot of clarity when that happens. When you stress yourself to a point where you're causing trauma to your body. But in this case, it's more mental trauma, because we can survive a long time without food. And it's actually the good part of that fasting is that autophagy or autophagia, some people will call it, will start to eat your own cells, so your body starts to eat itself, and it goes after the shitty ones first, so like this is a conversation for those who would rather just follow along with government guidelines for a cold and take shots or pills or wear masks around. You could just, like grandma used to say, just lay in bed for a couple of days, maybe even bring your fever up, cover yourself with big hot blankets and bring your fever up and drink lots of water. It'll be gone in a day or two. So instead of Trump and his hydroxychloroquine, I'm going to just recommend fasting. So I don't say that word right, I know.
I was going to say, oh, you don't want to say that other F word? I mean, fever? We're going to get banned for that. I mean, come on. Oh, man, it's been fun, hasn't it? Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm not going to go down that path, but how was the fast itself? Like, was it typical or was it a little different this time?
It was a little tougher this time. I think the heat, and then we talked about, how last week people keep referring to what we call the Schumann resonance, and that is kind of the Earth's frequency, and there's a lot of energy pumping these days. And other things that are going on around the world too are showing disruption in Mother Earth, let's call it. And so it could have been some of that, could have been the heat, I'm not sure, but I was pretty wore out by Friday, and then Saturday morning I was looking forward to some food, I'll tell you. But I just want to mention again the clarity, because I don't know if you're familiar with a guy named Jordan Peterson. He's a highly intellectual professor down in Eastern Canada, and he discusses lots of different issues. But he was on a video with a friend of mine, a guy that I really love on the web, and his name is Wim Hof, and he teaches these breathing exercises. It's very meditative too, but it's masculine. It's very, drive it in and out, and then hold your breath and go and have a cold shower and things like that. It's like masculine meditation, right? So they were discussing this, Jordan Peterson and Wim Hof, on this little short 1.5-minute long video, and he said, like when you do it yourself without bringing someone else in as the perpetrator of the trauma, like you're the one responsible for putting trauma on your body. And like I said, it's not as if it's more mental trauma because you want to eat, than it is physical trauma, because our bodies can go for a long time without food, if you just let the body do what the body's capable of doing, as Wim Hof says. But it's that self-inflicted trauma that really gives you clarity. and it doesn't give you anybody to blame for the trauma, but trauma always elevates your clarity. You know, like it's like, you know, if you get into a situation where you're hurt or something, or you're cut, and you know, or you break your leg or something, the trauma will give you a clear advice as to what to do, rather than, you know, going into shock or wondering what to do. Your body and your mind will kick into gear, and you just do things, you know. So what I find is after these 3 or 4 day cleanses, that my mind becomes really open, and I like to write things down when I first wake up in the morning or whatever, you know, like oftentimes that's the case anyway, but especially when you're fasting, there seems to be more clarity. So I just wanted to point that part out, and highly recommend it, folks. It's a wonderful way to take responsibility for your own body rather than letting some government tell you what to do.
I had a lot of thoughts when you shared that. One, I'll tell you a couple of thoughts that popped into my head as you were sharing some of that information. The first thing I thought of was about how I grew up with, you know, mealtime. Like there were 3 meals a day. You had breakfast, you had lunch. When you came home, I was lucky enough to live like a block from school, so I would go home and have lunch, and then dinner, of course. Now, I kept thinking, you know, that was very regimented. It was like you have to have 3 meals a day, and they have to be here and here and here, and they have to be at such and such a time. And there was always this constant regulation. And I kept thinking, you know, it's amazing how much popped in my head as you were saying this, because I was thinking about, is that also a form of conditioning? Is that also part and parcel of all the things we've been indoctrinated with, to think of, we have to have authority, we have to have certain structures, we have to follow the structure, we have to go step by step by step, and there's only one way to do it. But then again, they throw a bunch of stuff at us and let things fly, and then things get confusing because they contradict some of the indoctrination that we've had. So, you know, it can go all over the place. But and you know, maybe you'll want to speak to something in there too. But I'm going to say one more thing and lead us into a slightly different path, and then I'll give you a chance to answer about this and what I'm going to introduce now. But you mentioned Wim Hof and the breathing techniques. And for anyone who follows Wim's work, you know, one of the things that I found that's really cool about Wim is that he's one of these guys with the breath work that he can dive into a tub full of ice water. And I don't mean just cold water. I mean ice water. I mean, throw in the ice cubes, baby, make it cold. We're talking about that old commercial for Volvo where you used to jump in, and in Sweden, and there was a hole in the ice, and it was in the middle of winter. You know, you remember those commercials? So we're going to dive in here, but we're going to dive into your book a little bit. And I wanted to jump to chapter 15, which was talking about city council. And I'm going to quote a couple of things here, and then I'm going to give it back to you, Randall, and then I'll add a few more things from the same chapter. But this is chapter 15, and it's about city council. And one of the things you say here is municipal taxes or council taxes have no credibility and mislead the people to what money contributes to. An example of what I mean by this is, have you ever gone to a local council office and asked to see the budget of taxes for your community? I would estimate that 99% of you said no. And then we jump along a little bit, and it says some of those services are generally supportive that the council offers, but some of those services require a reboot. And this is what you were talking about, some of the things you'd like to see changed or adjusted. And I'll give you 3, and then I'll give you a chance to talk, and then we'll do 3 more, and then the last 4. So presently, water supply, speaking of diving in, is filled with fluoride, additives, and chemicals that destroy its natural formation to hydrate and clean. Point number 2, road maintenance requires improved technology and no damage to the environments with the materials currently used. And number 3, police and fire services can be upgraded to working from common law, which is the reason why they take the oath to serve the people, not the government's. So those are three areas you'd like to see changes and want to make changes in city council once things get rolling in October. So can you, I'll give you free floor to choose whatever you want because I just dumped a whole bunch of ice cubes on your lap. So you choose what you like.
Well, we've talked about fluoride before, and thank God, in the city of Calgary, we don't, put that shit in our water. It's, some of the kind of uh, special interest groups are calling for it again because they think it actually helps their children, but it doesn't, and if they want to do that, they can do it with their children, like put fluoride in your own water if you want, but it's just a ridiculous notion. And it's proven to be a toxic chemical that actually affects the pineal gland, which is what we're trying to clean out when we do fasts and stuff like that. So, why put it in the first place? Water is water, and there's no need for a bunch of chemicals in it. Like there's so few contaminants, and we're so fortunate in Calgary to be, 60, 50 miles from the mountains where, it's springs and glacier fed and snow melt and stuff. It's just the most beautiful, pristine water in the world. So any talk of putting anything in like that is ridiculous. And then, the idea of taxes and budgets, it just drives me nuts because, there's three levels of government in my province, right? The municipal being Calgary. We're, outside of the city, we've got towns and villages, and then rural, government, so to speak. But in our context, we'll speak from the municipality of Calgary, or the city of Calgary, provincial government, and then federal government. And everywhere you go, every program that's financed in their language, okay, finance meaning that there's debt behind it, which is just garbage to start with. Not everywhere you go that you'll see contribution from the federal government, contribution from the provincial government, contribution from the municipal government, all making you think that there's taxes involved. Well, each of them talks about the debt they're into, right? And especially at the federal level. Oh, we had to drive up the debt because everybody's asking for money. It just drives me nuts to think about the insanity of all of that. And then you're supposed to believe that they create budgets based on that. Nobody does math at that level and sits down in a accountant's office for the city of Calgary and says, show me, well, they put out these financial statements every year with these vague, big numbers, and it's just insanity, and we all fall for that. So the basis of it goes right back to: are there taxes taken off people's checks that work for corporations? Of course there is. When you've got 40% of the employed workforce in a city like Calgary, at least 40% working at some level for government, well, all that is just recycled, isn't it? If you think of it, it's just, so you take the taxes off. Well, you gave it to them in the first place. So it's like, there's a recycle job. Then we've got all these, elderly people, all the children. So there's that little bit of supposed workforce out there that's paying taxes. Then you got all of the businesses that avoid them in everywhere possible. When you get up into the upper levels of corporate businesses, they have so many bloody loopholes and ways that they can write off expenses and stuff. Don't give me the tax thing, okay? That thing just is such a ridiculous story. There's taxes paid on homes and stuff like that, but even there, it doesn't amount to anywhere near these so-called budgets. So I mean, that's my whole premise of being here is to wake people up to numbers, okay, and words, because we're going to talk about that after. But please, like if you really think that your taxes and all the arguments that go on about money in council chambers, that's all they ever talk about is, oh, I don't think we should be spending this money, and you guys are crazy, you're left wing or you're right wing, we got to be more conservative here. No, don't worry, we can spend the money, we're liberals. All that garbage back and forth is just a waste of people's time and a waste of the people of Calgary's time to even entertain that, you know, and all it does is keep us spinning around in a karmic blame game of, you know, left and right, liberal, conservative, you know, right, left, all that shit like that, when the whole time all money at the public level is backed by credit and debt is a complete, utter garbage, nonsense illusion. That was
So
a pretty good rant.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome, Randall. You got me thinking a bunch of things too, and I'm going to get back to this list. But first, I wanted to mention what came to mind, and it just was very clear this time. And what came to mind was, it seems like in the paradigm and the existence that we've been in, some people like to call it 3D, and the training and the things that we've been, you know, taught is competitiveness, combativeness, and fear. Those three things, and lack. You can throw lack into there too. So that, you know, we think there was always a shortage, that you have to have a budget. There has to be a restriction. And what I've learned over these past 17 plus weeks is that if we step out of that box completely and take a new look, like erase everything and then build it in a different way, what could it look like? It could look like cooperation. It could look like working together. It could look like not being afraid of anything. It could look like abundance, and like unlimited abundance. And you know, I'm preaching your words now. I'm taking words out of your mouth, because I remember some of the things that you told me from last week. But I'm going to let you speak to that, and then I'm going to get back to this list. But there's, you know, that's what I immediately thought is, there's an old system that of ways that we did, and now there's a potentially new system that you've been talking about, and that is coming and is actually here already, the way you've been talking. And we just have to choose it now. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it's like that, and that's that's a very good way of putting it, William. And you know, that's why we wrote the book, William and I and Danusha, the writer, is so that, you know, the few words that you're hearing here, and there's a lot of them if you go to 17 different chapters of this video presentation we've been doing, and we're going to keep going right up until selection time, and we're going to, you know, but we're presenting that book. Go and ask another one of your candidates. Okay, you're saying that you know, you support spending cuts. You know, you support the idea that, you know, we spent too much money under that last mayor, so we got to watch ourselves. We got to, you know, we got to watch our budget and stuff. What have you got to back that? What is that kind of conversation? You know, is it just that spinning around left to right, back and forth? Are we just going to do that game again? If it's, you know, Jeremy Farkas or uh, what's your name, Grace Yan is another candidate. You know, ask those people, well, what have you got to back that? Or am I just buying into the same old karmic story of flipping from one reality to the other, from liberal to conservative, from right to left? You know, it doesn't seem like we're getting anywhere when we do that. So I suggest read a book from a man who's an international banker, who's been around the world, seen the idea of no lack, seen the idea that credit, cash, collateral backed assets, if you want to call it that, are all manifested, okay? Manifested as in agreements and autographs. And on top of that, the actual value of a collateral backed asset, whether that be gold or silver, is also manifested. Okay, and manipulated. So the price of gold I'm talking about, or silver, is going to be manipulated up or down. There's no lack of anything. There's no lack. So in other words, there's no debt. And that's what we wrote this book for, is so that people can actually go there, sit down for a couple hours, and change your whole world. Honestly, change your whole way of thinking about this ridiculous notion of scrapping over right and left wing, over, you know, conservative thinking versus liberal thinking, over the idea of lack or the complete utter illusion of debt.
I mean, I'm going to ask the question to the audience here. Have you ever been in a situation where you're wondering about a political race and you're looking to vote and you say, okay, I really want to know what the issues are for each of these candidates. And I want to know a lot of the details of where they stand. How many people have been on regular TV shows telling us about what they know, writing a book, giving you all the details of where they stand, what they believe in, what they want to see, where they've been, and what they want to do in the future? How many times have you actually seen that, folks? This is your chance to see something here, to see something you've never seen before in someone running in a political race. I almost called you a politician. Randall, I would have had to apologize. I stopped myself. That's good. But I've been wanting for weeks to talk about, certain issues and things that we could do in the city of Calgary. And lo and behold, I stumbled across the details in the book. I'm going, why am I not talking about the book more? So let me cover a couple more points here. Some more things that you talked about that you'd like to see some change in Calgary, or we'd like to bring in. Leisure and recreation projects to be expanded for all arenas, for all cultures, to create more options for day use, not the limitation to 9 to 5 workers. And this is a huge change to be addressed also with hours of employment in society. Then there's libraries. Some libraries are nonprofit charities and not even connected to the councils. Nonetheless, improve the services offered for all. And the third one, and this is a big one, schools and educational services, teaching true history and focusing on the human spirit and relationships, emotions, mental health, physical well-being, recreating the theme of subjects like mathematics for use of numbers for real life financials, not equations that boggle the mind. Get the children to manifest their visions and goals and boost them to be business-minded, not just a worker in a system. Care to speak on any of those?
All in all, we're just another brick in the wall.
Pink Floyd.
we had that song come up this week, William. But it's the education system is where we're going to go for the rest of this video, okay? Because I've been my mind has been open to a lot of that for the last few days. And let's start with the word, okay? So the word is how creation began, according to biblical senses, okay? God said, okay? So there's resonance and vibration in the word, right? And that's how we talk, that's how we communicate, that's how we write, that's how we think. Some of us think in terms of pictures and colors and stuff, but then, well, what color is that? Oh, red, or blue, or purple. Oh, those are words, right? So thinking is where everything starts, or it could be previous to that in some people's realities, but thinking is basically where our world starts, right? So world is the first word I want to talk about after I talk about the word, okay? The word being creation. It's how we create things or how we manifest things. Manifest, bringing man in by itself, okay? Manipulation. Man is manipulating words to, manipulate and manifest a society or manifest a book or manifest anything. But creation is the alchemy. That's where love comes in. Love being the manifestation of God within us, okay? So God being the divinity, the love, the consciousness, the peace, the harmony, the euphoria, all those words that we like to talk about at the end of the show. That's all God. And God comes into this when you think of the word creation rather than the word manifestation. So William and I grew up in this, and many of you have as well, and probably all of you have, under a new world order, okay? World being a very key word here because it's not Mother Earth. It is a manifestation. It is a world of man. It is a human construct, the world, okay? So when we manifested this new world order, that happened, okay? And it happens over and over again throughout history. We just keep adjusting it. It's a new world. It's a new world. It's a new world. So the new world order that came in after World War II was Bretton Woods, and we speak of all this stuff in the book too. Don't get us wrong, like we're trying our best to just bring out the high points here on the video, but then you can go back and review this and read it a couple times if you like in that book, because it's not just my words. These are three people that have got this figured out: William, myself, and Danusha, that wrote this book. Danusha's got some incredible thoughts in her mind that she brought into this, and William edited it and asked us questions. So, those questions were very important because his mind then could understand what we were saying. So we made adjustments with William's beautiful mind as well. So this is a three-way effort, this book, to explain to you the idea of the monetary system and how the world works, okay? World being one letter added into word, okay? An L. So the L could go two ways, right? There's one way and then there's another way. Or maybe I should put them both the same, whatever. I think this is a good way. Because it just add that L in, and you either have a Luciferian, Lucifer, fallen angel, or you have a Lord, an arisen, arising, ascending man or woman. So, which way do you want your world to go? The way that the world has gone has been more towards that new world order, has been more towards that Luciferian, crazy thinking, satanic crap. And I'm not putting that into any context of, hidden secrets and cults and everything else. Satan simply is crazy thoughts in the Aramaic language. So, Luciferian or Satanism, in my mind, is just crazy shit. It's not conscious shit. It's unconscious, So we've come along this far with, continuation of blowing things up and harming human beings, government to government, these supposed, governments that are there to look after people, harming people, in so many ways. And now we've got to this last year where it's full on war, Oh, we're gonna control these people in every way we possibly can. And don't get me wrong, folks, it's all gonna come out in the wash. We're gonna see how, if you're not seeing it already, you're going to see how ridiculous this cold was, this flu bug was, that got blown out of proportion into a propaganda campaign that brought on experimental processes, experiments. That's all this is an experiment. This, this rag over your face, that's an experiment to see how you'll consent to something. This is an experiment. This thing in your arm is a full-on experiment. You could experiment yourself with your own body by fasting, or taking grandma's advice, or taking Trump's hydroxychloroquine, or whatever you say. There's a word for you. So I'm gonna hold up there, William, but because I want to breathe, and I'll let you.
Breathing is good. Yeah. I know a good guy named Wim Hof. You might want to check him out. Wow. I don't think I could spell that last word, but hydrochloride. Well, you know what I mean. But the funny thing is, I got this funny little quick thought as you were saying, because you began your piece by talking about words and the word, and everything began with the word. And I kept thinking, then this L came in, and then it jumped into the word and made it world. And I'm going, okay, why don't we just take the dang L out of there again? And I said, what would it be like if we had a new word order? Ooh, that might be kind of fun. No one's ever said that one before, so I thought that was kind of novel. What do you think?
It's beautiful, brother. And I mean, get creative. That's what we're here for, is to be creators, just like what William did. Like I'm not saying no to anything. It's like, get your thinking caps on, folks, and get creative, because it's time. Because these governments of the world have exposed themselves as nothing but a bunch of puppets, silly, sad little boys following, and girls, but mostly boys, following along some other bigger puppy than them, up this ridiculous chain of command to that old New World Order, which has now failed. And that, those people that manifested, and in this case, there's another word I'm going to talk about, but I'll finish my thought first. So manifestation is generally more than one human being, right? So there's agreement and authority involved, but there's, it's all those word games again. But what we manifested was an education system through the Rockefeller Foundation. Admittedly, everybody knows this. We started a new educational system, probably back in the early 1900s or 1800s, let alone what they upped it to after the 1940s, revamping history in the books, from the Bible to every other book that's out there, and feeding that to us and indoctrinating our minds throughout our lives, which is, has it caused a lot of harm? Well, not in some ways it's been okay, but we built this hierarchical structure, thinking that the more education you have, the smarter you'll be. And that smart word or intelligence word is where wisdom was lacked, and common sense. We've got doctors out there that are recommending this ridiculous stuff that's going on all over the place. And then there's doctors out there that are being censored, that have just as much education as them, but who have woken up themselves and said, wait a minute here, this isn't right. The science isn't proving it, and nothing else is proving it. It's ridiculous. And these people are coming unglued and suing. We've got doctors suing doctors, and lawyers, suing other lawyers. We got these academians and this intelligentsia out there battling it out, and the common sense people on the bottom floors are saying, oh, there's something going on here, like we gotta bring some common sense into this. And it's such a beautiful thing. But where did it start is what I'm saying. It's the education system. And we contributed to it, and we fell into it, whatever you want to call it. Like I said, listen to another brick in the wall. That's the beautiful explanation in a musical sense.
I'm thinking, I had this thought, another thought. It's amazing that I seem to be really good at, getting things from what other people say, almost like a reactionary visionist. How about that? A little bit of creativity there for you. I had this thought, wisdom without knowledge provides room to create, but knowledge without wisdom is trouble.
Ooh, beautiful. Beautiful. Write that down somewhere, like that.
I typed it out because I wasn't quite sure here, but I did that in the new word order. I typed that in here, so I'll definitely keep those. But yeah, just amazing. When you start, you're the one who showed me in some of your solo videos that, there's a lot of room in words to play, but really a lot of room, and they mean so much, and you can just tweak them a little bit and they mean something completely different or related as well. I mean, that's a possibility too. And, you've talked about the elemental tables and the PB and the SB and how that relates to banking and AG and AU and all of that importance too. And you talked a little bit about Word already tonight. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about pertaining to words? Because I do have 4 more items on the list. I'd love to cover them. We can do them next week as well. But I had the sense that you had a lot to say about word and words today.
Yeah, another one that came to me today, and I mean, I was having a really good chat with one of my really good friends down in Texas, Stephanie Sarton. She's a word gal, and she's incredible how she can sit down and start typing, and it's just divine, or she calls it direct neural activation. I like to call it divine natural activation, but her DNA kicks in and she just goes, And she mentioned a word today that I thought was really relevant to this, because I said how, a manifestation process takes at least two people, one to be the authority or, the author, and the other to agree. Silver and gold, AU, AG. And she said to me, morphic is more singular, is more individual. So we have this morphic field, right? That's what our bodies are. We're basically, frequency and energy moving, and then, we create a form somehow. And that form is actually our morphic field. That's what a scientist or science will define it that way, right? So our morphic field. So, I struggle to keep a belly off, and like I like to fast because my morphic field wants to be a little bit bigger, but I don't want it to be big. I'm just kidding. But anyway, you know what I mean? Like we have a morphic field that makes us into this mammal that we are, right? And it's something to do with, a divine creation, a mental creation, as well as the physical, biological being that we come to be. So morphic was really cool. And, then we step into the idea from morphic field to morphic resonance, okay? And Rupert Sheldrake is a beautiful author and speaker that talks about morphic resonance. And he explains it in terms of like a pigeon that learns how to carry a note in one area of the world, like, when they started carrier pigeons in England or whatever. And then all of a sudden in another part of the world, a pigeon starts doing that. And the 100th monkey effect was one monkey was washing his fruit in the ocean, and without telling the other monkeys, they started doing that. So that's what we refer to as morphic resonance. Okay, so the individual resonating its consciousness into the ether, if you want to call it that, and then another mammal that's like it picking that up. It's not telepathic. Well, maybe that's the word. I don't know. Like I'm not gonna be, and nobody needs to believe me. Just think about what I'm saying. That's all I'm asking, and add it to your story. That's what we always say on this show is like, don't trust me, trust yourself to believe either what I'm saying or take tidbits of what I'm saying and add to your own belief, like what William's doing right in front of our eyes today. So the idea of this morphic field is what those who felt that technology and intelligence and knowledge was the only way forward forgot about, okay? And call that morphic resonance God or divine or consciousness shifting, whatever language you want, that's real. And the only things that can do that are natural things. You can't do that with a fucking computer. Excuse my language. You can't do that with technology. That is a natural divine order, okay, that happens. So even as far as this, pharmaceutical experiment that's going on right now, we're going to surpass it because people are not just listening to other people who talk from a common sense level about numbers and the figures that are spitting out from a PCR test that is completely insane, doesn't have anything to do with identifying a specific virus. It's just complete insanity. And CDC and Fauci and all of those flunkies are admitting that, but nobody wants to see that because they're not seeing it on the news channel, on the fucking TV, But it's true. There's not going to be anything to back that. And if people don't want to listen to us, they're going to feel it from us in this morphic resonance, okay? This ascension collectively of the human mind that is happening. And there's nothing that can stop that.
Cool. Wow. That was something. I was thinking about it, not exactly related to what you've been talking about, but I'm trusting, like I said, in the last few shows and that we've done, I'm just trusting in things that pop into my mind. And sometimes they don't necessarily seem to resonate with what you've just been talking about. But I started watching a show on Gaia. It was David Icke, and a lot of people know who David Icke is. And this show was recorded in 2013, 2014, a series of episodes, and it's called The Dot Connector. And every time I watch an episode, I'm amazed at just how precise what he said then is fitting right now in 2021 and 2020 as well. We saw that. And all of a sudden, you know, David Icke doesn't look like that tinfoil hat guy like he did in the 1990s. You know, he's right on par. He's like right on track with what he's been saying. And it's really been quite amazing. Censorship is another thing that's been coming up a lot. And, you know, I won't go into that too much at this point, but it does bring up one question I have for you. And that is, your YouTube channel was shut down for a period of 2 weeks. And I figured today might be the day that it's supposed to come back online. Are you back online?
Yeah, I should be. We should be able to load this program on there. And yes, we're still being a little bit cautious, you know, pointing instead of talking about what that is. And you know, we want to be on YouTube, so we're just going to continue to do that. But we did some experiments on Facebook today to see what we could get away with. And you know, on Facebook, it's like, oh, so what if they ban me for a week or two or whatever? So I just cut loose on there today and used the actual language and the numbers that are in that word, you know, that's supposed to be going around and all that. The cold that I call it, a flu bug. But you know, never got it. I got that little warning to go to the site, you know, and check this out, but never got censored. Never got a warning or anything. So I thought, wow, we are moving forward. That was proof to me, you know. And
I'm going to interrupt real quick. I do wonder how quick it is. You know, like I saw a show. It was so funny. This was a show on Rumble, and it was a guy named Praying Medic who did a lot of Q drop translations or whatever they call that. And he was on a show with a guy, and they're more into sort of have a bit of a religious side to what they talk about, but I don't hold that against them. It's still very interesting content they talk about. And they had an episode where every time they mentioned something about the election down in, you know, south of our borders, they would get their video would stop recording. It would just stop. And at the very end of the video, they had tested, like they had like 4 false starts because they kept starting with that subject. And so they had to keep restarting. And then on the final one, which ended up getting, you know, uploaded into Rumble, and notice I said Rumble and not, you know, the other channel, that it got stopped less than 3 seconds after he said the word on the interview. It just stopped, and the guy with the green beard just laughed because he was still on, but his partner was completely cut off. So they seemingly, unless that was a really amazing coincidence, it just didn't seem like it was a coincidence. It was too perfect to be a coincidence. So I'm curious, you know, timing. I have seen some of your posts on Facebook, and I haven't been on Facebook very much lately, but I have seen one of yours, Randall, where there was a warning on it saying that the information isn't quite accurate. To see the correct, accurate information, go here, or something of that nature. So I don't know if you knew that or not, but I have seen it in a couple of your posts. So, you know, there may still come something on your post from today, I guess is my long-winded way of getting around to saying that. But it is interesting. It is definitely interesting.
And there was a warning under the post, but that was it. Like they didn't ban me for it, which is what I was trying to point out, because it was strong. Like I let her rip, you know. It was like, come on, folks, let's just experiment here. Let's give this a test run. And I was threw some bombs in there and threw in the words, like the exact words, you know, yeah, calling it out for what it is. So it was fun.
But let's face it, you know, why does a person have to couch their phrasing? Why does a person have to avoid saying certain words? What is up with that? Why are we having to do that?
Perfect. I mean, all you need to do is question it. And if someone out there who watches TV all the time watches this show and questions it, that's all you need to start with, is just question it. You know, do you want to live under censorship? Is that what you choose? Is that what you'd like? I'm not going to call it, you know, the ism word. I'm just going to call it censorship. Do you want to live under a world like that where you don't have any free speech to say, I don't believe in this, you know? You know what? Another really good friend of mine, Andrea Grace, she's down in New Jersey this week. This was cool. And it happened this week. Hi, Andrea. I don't know if she'll watch it now. Anyway, she's busy and she really hit onto something this week. And that is the idea that there is constitutionally, legally, in that legal universe where I very seldom like to go, rights for religious exemptions, okay? And it's as simple as that. And when you use the word religion, it doesn't have to mean, you know, our religion. It's your spiritual beliefs. It is your, you can be the only one in your religion. But if it's your beliefs, you're protected. Oh my God, I love that. And she's just focused on it lately and she's hammered it home. It's beautiful to watch. Like everybody's got their specialty out there that they're working on. And she found that one this week. And I'm just encouraging her so much because it's the children, you know, going back to school that she's, you know, working for to keep them free of having to put muzzles on their face or testing or having that thing, you know, like it's just insane that anyone would do that to our children, and you know, let alone the adults. But our children need that protection, and good for you, Andrea. That's what I want to give her some kudos this week because she's been hammering that one.
Was there one particular video that we could even like promote or put a link down in the description or anything?
They're pretty I don't know, in-depth videos. Like she's discussing with some of the students and stuff, and they're fairly long. So Andrea Grace on YouTube, you know, like if you do a YouTube search for Andrea Grace, Andrea, but pronounce it Andrea because that's the way to pronounce it.
That's the way to pronounce
it. Grace is nice and easy. So it's AG, you know.
Yep.
The silver girl.
Awesome. Randall, so your YouTube is probably coming back online shortly. You've done some Facebook posts. I guess the other housekeeping bit that I'm wondering about is any news or word about officially registering for the race?
Well, on that front, like on the banking side, now we're going to talk about that for a minute, and I'll say that we have moved to that Paymaster account. I think I mentioned this already last week. So there has been transfers, and you know, the central bank system let it go through. Okay, so did they let it go through or did we bypass it? Doesn't matter, because the conscious banking system quantumly is in effect. Okay, the quantum conscious banking system. That's the way I like to put it. People can use their own language and choose whatever they like, but there is a new system that's in place. It's being tested, it's actually running, and there is transfers being made at the Paymaster level. Next step is to bring it from Paymaster to project funding. One of those projects being a project for a corporation that will be soon under the guise or under leadership of Donald J. Trump again, okay? So they can't really do this project with that dipshit that's supposedly on the television, that's, you know, that people think is the president. That election was fraud, and it's all coming out, and within this week or next week, shit's gonna hit the fan, honest to God. And Donald J. Trump will come back in as the president and CEO of the corporation. So a project, right? Project funding is going to come to that corporation in the form of a US note, or let's call it $1, but let's just say that it is going to be asset backed. People talk about gold backed. Fine, if you want to use the word gold. Gold is an interesting word too, just for the heck of it. Let's tear that one apart. God with that L again, which could either be Lucifer or Lord. You know, which do you choose? Gold could be the root of all evil, or it could be how we solve all of our problems under the really, good side, the Lord side, rather than the Luciferian satanic side. So gold is an interesting word. So we're going to see that transition this week, next week. I don't know. It's all going to happen now, and it's going to be perfect. But that's one project, okay? And that project will lead to Donald J. Trump coming back in and folding the corporation and saying, okay, let's have a republic. We're going to republic this thing. We're going to republic the United States. And as far as I'm saying and supporting, bring Canada into that. Fuck it. Just make it the North American Republic and to hell with it. Because all we got up here is a floating military outpost for some fake queen. Like there's nothing here. There's no constitution or fuck all. So why would we even, bother? Unless there are people out there listening to this that are actually creating a republic, well, give me a call. I'll help you out with that if you want, or I could, whatever you want to do. Like I'm here ready to help with that, because either way, we got a republic, okay? Republic. Think of that word. It's redo something. And in this case, it's the public. It's we, the people, that need to run this thing, not some fucking corporation, crown corporation. Really? Come on, people. Let's wake up with a few swear words here. It's a fucking crown corporation. Like seriously.
Well, wow. That's all I can say about that is wow. I mean, now either Randall's going to be, like this amazing guy with all this cool stuff, or he's going to be the tinfoil hat guy. I'm hoping they go for the first one. You had, just to wrap up the last little bit of the show here, you had what I thought was an outstanding interview earlier this week with Roman Light, and we haven't mentioned that yet. And Roman asked you some very pointed questions. Unlike myself, we're a little bit more loosey-goosey, but Roman was very serious and very direct with you, and had a lot to say himself as well. And that was an awesome interview, because he got some really cool things out of you that even surprised me, that I wasn't even aware of. So can you speak to that a little bit here, and then we'll wrap it up?
Sure, brother. And let's put a link to that one below, because people that do feel like sitting for a little while, there's a lot of information here. It's all truth. Yes, it's my truth, and it's your choice to believe it or not. That's the way life goes. That's the way truth goes. That's the way love goes. But it's, it is what it is. Like we just gotta do our stuff. Like there's lots of people to listen to, and you can choose to listen to anybody you want. I have some good words for you in a book, in many videos, and in this link that we're going to put below to Roman and I. Roman being an extremely famous man from France, who actually became a internet, guru, I guess, overnight when the Yellow Jacket process happened in France a few years ago, where he was, telling the truth about what was going on, and he had millions of followers. All of a sudden, it was just boom. People were like, "Holy shit, this guy's got his, his thinking cap on. He knows what he's talking about." When it came to the Yellow Jacket movement in France, and what's going on there still, same thing. I mean, that nation is going to tip the scales by the looks of it. The amount of protests and the amount of people standing up in France is beautiful. To this ridiculous hoax that's gone on for the last couple of years. So anyway, Roman moved to Australia, and he's leading things there. He's got a huge following of people, and the man is a genius in chemistry and mathematics. You try and get some information on anything in those fields past him, good luck. He is one highly intelligent individual. but a wise, well-balanced, masculine, feminine energy man as well. Like you go to his YouTube channel and there's a first video that came up that I just was so attracted to was him talking about the feminine Mother Earth and how we need to respect her. It was just a stunning short video that he put up. So yeah, we had a really nice visit this week. I sat in the bank and made it look a little bit more professional behind me, you know, and without a screen on or anything. I was sitting right in my bank where I talked about, you know, where I do business up the seventh level is private wealth management, and then capital management, or where the manifestation occurs up on the ninth level. We talked about all that stuff. So yeah, go ahead and check that out if you like to. But I'm
Sacred,
good for today, William.
Sacred Arithmetic is Roman's channel, and that is well worth checking out. I know that he, according to YouTube, and we know the numbers in YouTube can sometimes be a little off, but he had 3.2K followers. So he had a few followers definitely following his work, and probably a lot more that we don't even know of. So, but yeah, a great guy, a great interview, and definitely recommend it. We will again put that link, and it is on the Dow Turnley channel as well, but you can go check out his site too. So Roman, thank you very much for that. And Randall, thank you very much for today. We kind of bounced around a lot, but we covered a lot of ground.
A lot of words.
That's a Bee Gees song come to mind. It's only words. Words are all I have. And on those words, I will pass it to you for the final words to wrap up today.
Thank you, William. And all the best to everyone out there that's been keeping up with us and enjoying our shows. And we'll keep it up. We'll be here at least till into September when this last round happens, and then off to the selection in October. So with peace, harmony, love, abundance, and freedom for everyone and everything every day on our minds. William and I saying abundance, sovereignty, health, love, and euphoria. Have some fun, folks, and we'll see you next week. We love you.
Bye.
Love you.